Welcome. Let's dive into today's summary. How does one begin to heal from the pain of feeling unworthy? The search for healing in the face of emotional wounds is an ancient journey, one that has been explored by many great thinkers and spiritual leaders. Brach, in her profound work Radical Acceptance, delves into this deep question, offering a revolutionary approach to overcoming the suffering of self-judgment. At the heart of her message lies the idea that acceptance, rather than striving for perfection or avoiding pain, holds the key to healing our deepest wounds. What does it mean to accept ourselves fully, especially when so much of our life seems defined by the things we feel ashamed of or unworthy of? This question forms the crux of radical acceptance. It's an exploration of how we can finally let go of the relentless pursuit of perfection and instead embrace our inherent worthiness and wholeness. It challenges us to confront the way we've been conditioned to fear vulnerability, and how that fear, rather than protecting us, keeps us stuck in cycles of suffering. The journey through radical acceptance is not one of simply resigning ourselves to life's hardships, but of shifting the perspective that allows us to meet life, with all its imperfections, with compassion, wisdom, and resilience. When did we begin to believe that we were not enough? In her teachings, Brach connects deeply with the universal human experience, the belief that something about us is inherently flawed. She asserts that this feeling of unworthiness is not something we are born with, but something that develops through our experiences, societal pressures, and the relentless voice of inner criticism. From an early age, many of us internalize messages of inadequacy. We are taught to believe that we are only worthy if we meet certain standards, be it the expectations of our parents, society, or even the pressure we put on ourselves. In a world that constantly bombards us with ideals of success, beauty, and power, it's easy to feel like we're falling short. We begin to compare ourselves to others, measuring our worth based on external markers like appearance, achievements, or status. We forget that our inherent value lies not in our accomplishments or our flaws, but in the simple truth that we exist. Yet this sense of inadequacy can be so deeply ingrained that it's often hard to recognize. We may have become so accustomed to feelings of guilt or shame that they have become our default way of being. Brach, however, encourages us to see these feelings for what they are, learned beliefs that can be unlearned. Radical acceptance, the courage to face ourselves. Brach coins the term radical acceptance to describe the process of fully embracing ourselves' flaws, imperfections, and all. Radical acceptance is not about resignation or giving up, but about having the courage to face ourselves as we are, without judgment. It's a practice of embracing all parts of our being, even the parts we wish were different. The idea of acceptance and radical acceptance is not passive. It is a deliberate and courageous choice to stop fighting against ourselves. Instead of resisting the painful emotions we carry, guilt, shame, anger, we learn to meet them with compassion and understanding. In this process, we begin to realize that we are not defined by our mistakes or shortcomings, but by our willingness to continue growing, learning, and being kind to ourselves. Brach suggests that the key to radical acceptance lies in our ability to let go of self-judgment and to stop living as if we must constantly earn our worth. This practice, which she describes as an act of self-compassion, helps us to release the harsh inner critic that so often keeps us stuck in a cycle of self-rejection. Why is self-compassion so vital in overcoming suffering? The answer lies in the way our brains are wired. As human beings, we are deeply affected by the way we perceive ourselves. When we treat ourselves with kindness and understanding, we activate neural pathways that promote healing and well-being. However, when we criticize or reject ourselves, we trigger the body's stress response, which can create even more suffering. This biological reality highlights the importance of self-compassion in the process of healing. Brach explains that self-compassion is not about indulging ourselves or ignoring the need for change. It is about approaching ourselves with the same care and concern we would offer a loved one. It is recognizing that, like everyone else, we are imperfect and, at times, struggling. And yet, despite these imperfections, we are worthy of love and acceptance. One of the most radical aspects of Brach's message is her assertion that suffering is not something to be avoided at all costs. While society often pushes us to numb pain or hide from vulnerability, Brach encourages us to approach suffering with openness and curiosity. She suggests that it is precisely through facing our suffering with acceptance that we can begin to heal. Rather than pushing away painful emotions, we can learn to sit with them, allowing them to reveal their deeper lessons. How can we learn to accept both our imperfections and our strengths? Brach offers practical tools for cultivating radical acceptance in daily life. One of the key practices she recommends is mindfulness, a technique that encourages us to be fully present with our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. By developing mindfulness, we can learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them. This helps us to see our internal experiences more clearly, without being swept away by them. Another important practice in radical acceptance is the cultivation of loving kindness. This involves intentionally sending thoughts of love and compassion to ourselves and others. It's an antidote to the inner critic that so often tells us we're not good enough. Instead of focusing on our perceived shortcomings, loving kindness helps us focus on our inherent worth. It's a reminder that no matter how much we may struggle, we deserve to be treated with love and respect. As we begin to practice radical acceptance, we start to shift the way we view ourselves and the world around us. We begin to see that our imperfections are not liabilities, but part of what makes us uniquely human. It is through embracing both our flaws and our strengths that we can live more fully, with greater peace and understanding. Which inner narratives keep us trapped in cycles of self-criticism? Brach identifies several key narratives that often keep us stuck in cycles of self-rejection. One of the most common is the narrative of unworthiness, the belief that we are fundamentally flawed or not good enough. This story often arises in childhood, when we learn that love and approval must be earned. Over time, this belief can become so ingrained that we feel unworthy of love, success, or happiness. Another powerful narrative is that of perfectionism. The drive for perfection can be a powerful motivator, but it can also be incredibly destructive. Brach explains that perfectionism arises from a deep fear of failure or being judged. It leads to an unrelenting pursuit of success and approval, but it also creates feelings of inadequacy and anxiety. By learning to let go of the need to be perfect, we can create space for self-acceptance. Finally, Brach talks about the narrative of comparison, constantly measuring ourselves against others. In today's world, with social media and constant exposure to curated images of success and happiness, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others. This only deepens feelings of insecurity and inadequacy. Radical acceptance, however, encourages us to stop comparing ourselves and instead to embrace our own unique path. What would happen if we chose to see ourselves with loving eyes? The central message of radical acceptance is simple yet profound. The way we see ourselves shapes our entire experience of life. By choosing to see ourselves with love and compassion, we can begin to transform our inner world. As Brach teaches, radical acceptance is not a destination, but a practice one that we must return to again and again. When we begin to accept ourselves fully, we free ourselves from the constant need for external validation. We stop chasing after approval and start living in alignment with our true selves. Through this process, we create the space for healing, growth, and a deeper connection to others. What would it mean to embrace life, with all its imperfections, as it is? In the end, radical acceptance challenges us to confront the ways in which we resist our own humanity. By accepting ourselves as we are, flaws, struggles, and all, we open the door to true peace and healing. The journey of radical acceptance is not easy, but it is transformative. It teaches us that no matter what we have been through or what we may still face, we are worthy of love, compassion, and acceptance. Ultimately, radical acceptance offers us a new way of being in the world, a way that doesn't demand perfection, but encourages us to show up as we are, with all our imperfections, knowing that we are enough. The final question then becomes, what would it mean for you to live fully, with radical acceptance of yourself, today? That's it for today's 10 Minutes Gold Mine. Thanks for your valuable time. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like and subscribe. It helps us grow and share more insights with you. And if there's a book you'd love to hear, drop its name in the comments. See you in the next one.